Okay. A lot of bad stuff going on. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We never do. But I wanted to focus on one aspect of this that a lot of people still seem not to understand. It's all intentional. We can dig deep and try to figure out what are the motives here. What maniac who understands how things work would possibly intentionally destroy the economy of what was the greatest economy in world history in a matter of, I don't know, 70 days? I've lost track. Seems much longer, but it's not a lot of time at all. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. During the Biden administration, it was last year before the election, The Economist, not known for being a shill for the left, said, quote, "The United States economy is the envy of the world. Today, the United States of America is a pariah. All of our former allies are desperately trying to create new alliances, new trade partnerships, so that they do not feel the brunt of the insanity they're being subjected to by this insane person in the Oval Office. The goal, and I wholeheartedly concur, is to box us out, isolate us, and render us weak. Well, when you have the weakest person who ever lived in charge, it's not going to be that difficult. But again, why? We have people, and I'm going to talk about this in a bit, still thinking that Donald will come to his senses, that if you just explain it to him the right way, he'll understand. This, despite the fact that there is no evidence to support such a contention. This, despite the fact that if anybody ever has demonstrated they do not deserve the benefit of the doubt, it's Donald Trump. And this, despite the fact that he's proven time and time again that he knows nothing, that he cares less. But still, you would think that somebody as plugged in as he is, somebody who pays as much attention to headlines and numbers like the Dow as he does, would maybe think that he needs to change his mind, that he needs to course correct, even though that might admit that you were wrong. He would spin it. He would pretend that he was right all along and that everybody else was wrong. He's still not doing it. And we saw today, somebody mentioned that there was a strategy in place. The market started to recover. Donald could not be contradicted. He could not be contradicted. So he had one of his minions go out and say, nope, that's fake news. And the market started to plummet again. So is it about the economy? Or is it that he now knows? I mean, not that he's just learning this, but he is remembering. He's remembering what it feels like to wield that kind of power. And if with one ill-advised, stupid, moronic, vicious tweet, he can send global markets into a tailspin, that's power. And that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about which direction the market goes in. He's going to be just fine. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to be with you. I am back at Mary Trump Media headquarters, also known as my other room. Yeah, and it's winter. Last time I spoke to you, I think it was summer, and it's winter. I'm confused. But, so too is the global economy because of one insane person who never should have been anywhere near the levers of power. But here we are. So kind of hang on to your hats. And I'm sorry to have to share a lot of this stuff with you today because I know everybody's worried and everybody is feeling a little panicked perhaps. But I'm going to try to add some perspective that might help not make sense. I mean, it's very clear what's happening, but might help give us a little bit of not hope exactly, but kind of take away some of the inevitability here, because I think that's part of what got everybody feeling so keyed up. This feels inevitable. How are we going to stop this? Well, there are ways. It just requires reminding some people what their fucking jobs are. So, as I'm sure you're well aware, the U.S. markets experienced chaotic whiplash today, with the Dow dropping over 500 points in reaction to mixed signals from Donald about his tariffs and what he's going to do about them. Rumors were swirling that there was going to be a potential 90-day pause. And as soon as those rumors got out, and I'm not exactly going out on a limb here when I say they were almost certainly intentionally leaked because somebody needed to stop the bleeding. Those rumors got out, 90-day pause on the stupidest economic cell phone ever engaged in. Stocks surged, started to regain all of the ground they'd lost. And then what happened? Well, as I said earlier, Donald didn't like the fact that somebody had undercut him. He believes in his tariffs because he's stupid and he's arrogant and he's a megalomaniac. So basically, somebody in the White House dismissed the idea of a pause on tariffs as fake news. And then, well, the market started to plunge again. And then he threatened an additional 50% of tariffs on Chinese goods, continuing to stoke fear, leaving the markets even more shaken than they'd had been. So let's take a look at the most recent action in the market.
Chaos is exactly the way to describe it here in the pit on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And we were here this morning during the opening bell, and we saw the major drop across the board, red all across the board. But we've seen this volatility, these wild swings. At one point today, the Dow was down as much as 1,700 points, and then it was able to swing back into positive territory. And then now, as we see, it closed about 350 points down. But I was talking to an economist a short time ago, and the thing that she pointed out is one of the reasons behind all of the volatility right now is the fact that there's no clear policy resolution or solution to all of this. Everyone's like waiting on pins and needles to hear what the president or the administration might say. And so it's kind of a wait and see. And so the data points of the economy itself, this economist pointed out, are still strong. I mean, jobs are good, companies and profits are doing well, but everybody is worried about what these tariffs could bring. So the big question is, what is the president and the administration going to do going forward? If the tariffs hold, like they say they will, although the administration says that negotiations are still happening right now with different countries, but assuming that they hold for the week, most of the traders and investors here that we've been talking to say expect more of that volatility and more of those wild swings to come.
All right. Donald was asked by a reporter if he's considering a pause on the tariffs to ease the chaos in the markets, which we saw. We had direct evidence that seemed like a pretty good idea. This is how we responded. Quote, well, we're not looking at that. You know what? I'm going to interject my own commentary as we go. Try to see if you can tell which is a direct quote from Donald and which is my ad-libbing. It's a new thing we're doing here. So this is a quote from Donald. Quote, well, we're not looking at that because we're complete and utter fucking morons. We have many, many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us in my dreams because I think that they're supposed to be afraid of us, but they're laughing at us, not even behind our backs anymore, because this is so obviously disastrous for the United States that they're just going to gang up on us because I'm such a pathetic loser. And they're going to be fair deals, unquote. Good luck sussing that one out, guys. According to Donald, these tariffs will take effect on Wednesday. Like, is every day ending in Y tariff day now? I think so. But these new ones are going to take effect on Wednesday, as promised, despite pressure from former supporters. Yeah, these are the idiots I'm overusing that word. I'm sure most of them aren't idiots. These extraordinarily selfish and obscene oligarchs who don't care about anything except their own bank accounts. Is that better? Maybe. I think it's more descriptive, perhaps more accurate. They've known all along what a they know who Donald is, right? He's a thug. He's a wannabe mobster. He's a failure as a business person. He's just a failure. And let's face it. Hi, Donald. So they know that he is terrible at everything, but he's useful. He has been so useful to them. Why? Because if you know how to play him, trust me, it's extraordinarily easy. And you understand that all he needs to hear is flattery and the ways in which you're going to make him rich if he lets you do whatever you want. Guess what? That's going to be good for your business. And they don't care how it affects anybody else. They do not care what impact it has on anybody else. All of a sudden, these tariffs, which are, again, just bad across the board, they're bad for them. And now they have a problem. They don't have a problem with the tariffs because it's increasing inflation and going to make it almost impossible for working people in the United States of America to make ends meet and feed their children. They don't give a shit about that. It's having an impact on their bottom line. So billionaire and formerly outspoken support of Donald, Bill Ackman, turned on the tariff plan over the weekend, questioning Donald's judgment and begging him to stop the madness by imposing the aforementioned 90-day pause. Ackman said, quote, Donald has an opportunity on Monday to call a timeout and have the time to execute on fixing an unfair tariff system. Alternatively, we're heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down, unquote. Additionally, Lawrence Fink, chief executive of BlackRock, said today that the chief executives he's been speaking with, quote, would say we're probably in a recession right now. The economy is weakening as we speak, unquote. I don't know, maybe the economy looks like Donald. That's a potential goal here. A recession might not be the only pain our economy is about to face. The European Commission has proposed counter tariffs of 25% on a variety of U.S. imports, including diamonds, eggs, and poultry, in response to Donald's new tariffs set to begin on May 16th. Didn't I just say Wednesday? But this is what I'm saying. They're new tariffs all the time. You just can't get enough of them. The proposal will be voted on by the European Union member states on April 9th, which is 2 days from now. So that is Wednesday. They don't have a choice. They do not have a choice. Our former allies can either lay down and allow Donald to use his insane tariffs, his unilateral and unprovoked tariff war that he started, to gain leverage over them and force them to make deals that would be bad for their country and their people, or they can do what they've been doing and continue to do what they've been doing and do it harder and more systematically, and this is important, in a more coordinated fashion. So the United States places tariffs on their goods, they are going to impose their own set of tariffs, and on and on and on. And that's how global trade wars begin. What is the alternative? Who's responsible? Donald Trump and the United States of America responsible. So yes, European Union member states, Canada, anybody else who's having an impact, even China, protect yourselves. Create new alliances. Box us out. Weaken us. Because then what? Well, then we have to have a reckoning here and deal with it ourselves. Because the idea of anybody going out of their way, I should say, anybody outside of this country who is suffering the brunt of these absolutely nonsensical and damaging, like the catastrophic damage being imposed because of these tariffs, seriously, it's incalculable. Incalculable. The idea that anybody outside of this country would bend the knee and allow this to continue is unthinkable. No, that's for the people in this country to do. So Donald's massive self-inflicted would, because again, it's also going to harm Americans horribly. It already is harming Americans horribly. That's not Canada's problem. That's not the EU's problem. So Donald was forced today to alter his big plan to hold a press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom he's hosting at the White House. The press conference was downsized to a small pool of reporters, almost certainly because Donald didn't want to have to deal with facing questions about the havoc he's wreaking upon the U.S. and world economies. During the meeting, the two mass murderers, I apologize, sorry. During the meeting, sorry. During the meeting, Donald and Netanyahu, who have a lot in common, perhaps is how I should have phrased it, confirmed that the United States would begin direct talks with Iran this Saturday.
We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful.
He looks great. Is anybody else really sick of governing by, we'll see what happens? I personally am. And I think that my favorite thing that he said was, we're going to make a deal because doing something else, blah, blah, blah. I think what, not making a deal? I don't know. He's so eloquent that sometimes I can't keep track. Their announcement came alongside confirmation that new tariffs, including 17% on imports from Israel, will take effect on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is committed to eliminating Israel's trade deficit with the United States and removing trade barriers. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Though Donald refused to share whether or not he plans to halt his tariffs on Israeli goods. So much for the fair deal he's willing to negotiate with other countries. And I actually said that who in his right mind outside of this country would allow themselves or their country to be beholden or to be blackmailed by Donald via his horrifically unfair and destructive tariffs. But I guess Netanyahu just proved that he's not sane. Not that we needed any more proof of that. See aforementioned accidental mention of mass murderer. So I don't think that in terms of our international relations and our national security, I don't think we're in very good shape when the only two world leaders Donald seems to be spending any time with are Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, of course, while Donald might be afraid to face the entire press corps and cannot handle doing a presser with anybody but vetted reporters and any questions that aren't softballs, he did have plenty to say about the EU and tariffs.
We have a deficit with the European Union of $350 billion. And it's going to disappear fast. And one of the reasons and one of the ways that can disappear easily and quickly is they're going to have to buy our energy from us because they need it. They're going to have to buy it from us. They can buy it. We can knock off $350 billion in 1 week. They have to buy and commit to buy a like amount of energy. And we have that. You know, we have more energy than any country in the world. I don't know if you know that. He knows everything. But the one thing he may not know, we have more energy than any country in the world. We have more of every kind of energy, every form of energy, from oil and gas to coal. And people talk about, I call it beautiful, clean coal. As you know, Germany is opening up a coal plant a week. They tried the windmills and it didn't work.
Okay, so we don't have more wind energy than anybody else. Do we have more sun? I don't know. I guess we only have the good kind of energy, the like really dirty kind of energy that's destroying the planet. Cool. I wonder, I mean, I don't really wonder because it doesn't really matter. He pulls these numbers out of thin air. So I'm wondering how that $350 billion alleged deficit that he's talking about, how is that going to disappear? Well, I think he's actually hit upon the most efficient way of making it disappear. He's going to make the United States economy disappear. So deficits will be irrelevant because the United States isn't going to have any economic power anymore. That sounds dark and grim. But again, this is what happens when you pretend that only one person is in charge of this stuff. The United States does not have a unitary executive, at least not yet. Now, I know that is a fever dream on the right, but that is not yet the case. So, again, in a little while, I'll get to who else should be stepping up here and doing something. Donald had also had something to say about the Israeli hostages still being held by Hamas after over a year and a half. This is an incredibly strange clip. I will discuss it on the other side. Watch.
The stories they told me, I mean, as an example, I said to them, was there any sign of love? You were there, 10 people. It's only 10, but it's pretty representative. Did the Hamas show any signs of, like, help or liking you? Did they wink at you? Did they give you a piece of bread extra? Did they give you a meal on the side, like, you know, you think of doing? Like what happened in Germany, what happened elsewhere. People would try and help people that were in unbelievable distress. They said no. I said all of them. I said, did they ever wink at you like, you'll be okay? You're going to be okay? No, they didn't do that. They'd slap us. The hatred is unbelievable. And the lives, you know, they lived in a pipe. Not really a tunnel, it was a pipe.
You know what? I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say. This fucking monster is literally asking hostages who survived in conditions that are completely unimaginable to us if the people who held them, who undoubtedly tortured them, who killed people right in front of them, killed their loved ones, God knows what was done to them. If what they winked at them, gave them an extra piece of bread, let them think, hey, it's going to be just like the concentration camp guards in Auschwitz did. To be able to sit there in a room with that and keep a straight face and hold your tongue as if this is all just fine. Those people sitting there and letting this happen, they're worse. So, while Donald was busy, I don't even know what he's talking about. Somehow, though, it's very important for him to make the people who were responsible for the horrors, for the vicious, unimaginable cruelty, somehow humanize them. An appeals court handed the Trump regime a significant loss. Hooray. Appeals court blocked Donald from firing 2 leaders on federal boards. This is a rare 7-4 decision. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals has reinstated 2 Biden-appointed officials, Gwynne Wilcox of the National Labor Relations Board and Kathy Harris of the Merit Systems Protection Board, blocking Donald's attempt to fire them. The court overruled an earlier panel that sided with the Trump regime, reaffirming that such officials can only be removed for, quote, inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance, unquote, which, of course, people in the Trump regime were unable to do because that was not operative. The ruling is a sharp rebuke of the Trump regime's broader efforts to assert sweeping control over executive agencies and sets up a likely emergency appeal to, you guessed it, because that's where all this stuff is heading, the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority in the Supreme Court. The boards have been left without quorum following the firings of those 2 people. And again, this is the problem here. We are in a situation where the courts are doing, at least, I mean, not all of them, but I think the vast majority of these decisions seem to be in the hands of, or seem to have been written by people who continue to respect and understand the rule of law, which is great, but it takes time. And even when they get it right, because the lawyers arguing these cases overwhelmingly aren't doing it well, and that is an understatement. All of this almost certainly is going to end up in front of that corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, which is to say, I cannot tell you with any confidence that the rule of law will be upheld or that the Constitution will continue to be respected. Why? Well, because that corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court does not believe in the rule of law and does not respect our Constitution, which, irony just died again. Unfortunately, we are seeing higher courts bending to Donald's will. And here you go. Donald's deportation horrors, the ones he's intentionally inflicting, continue as his regime randomly disappears legal residents from their homes and families. I've talked about this before. We need to talk about it again. A man named Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran migrant who lived in Maryland with a work permit. He was allowed to be here, was illegally deported to El Salvador, the country he had originally fled, even after a judge a couple of years ago said that he may not ever be returned to his home country because he will almost certainly be tortured and very possibly killed. Abrego Garcia has a legal work visa. He is married to an American woman, and he has a child who is a United States citizen because Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, last I checked, is still operative, unlike Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was set on fire last year. Last week, a U.S. district judge in Maryland ordered that Abrego Garcia be returned to the United States, but the DOJ attorneys arguing against that have continued to fight to prevent this, claiming falsely that now that the man they accidentally deported is out of the country, there's literally nothing the United States government can do about it. And therefore, the judge has absolutely no authority over any of it. Donald, of course, cited judicial overreach and turned to the Supreme Court, which, as always, had his back. They extended the deadline the government has to bring Abrego Garcia back to the United States. Chief Justice John Roberts, in a rare bout of conscience, or maybe he was just sleepy, granted the administrative stay until such time as the court hands down a more considered decision in the case. I misspoke. Roberts continues to suck. I was thinking about another decision. My apologies. So Roberts is in no rush here to bring this man who was deported accidentally home, even though he is currently in a prison in the country he fled for fear of his life. There's no new deadline. There is, of course, more, because there's always more these days. Over 36 student visas for California residents were revoked suddenly and without any form of warning. Why? Because the Trump regime wanted to punish their students for simply being pro-Palestinian. Watch this.
I'm a big believer in due process, and it seems that these terminations were done without due process.
Adam Tefeli is a student body president at UCLA and an international student.
A lot of people are worried. I think international and non-internationals are just worried about, the scope of the terminations. A lot of people are concerned over the legality, and just because we don't have that much information about what's happening and why it's happening.
Students impacted include those at other UC campuses, including UC Irvine and UC San Diego. So far, the federal government has given no explanation for the cancellation. But some of the students have expressed pro-Palestinian views, likely being arrested during last year's campus-wide protests denouncing the war in Gaza. Immigration attorneys say the federal government can revoke student visas at its discretion.
More commonly, what we're seeing right now is students who are protesting whose beliefs or behaviors are not in line with the U.S.'s, and so they're being deemed as a security risk.
Wow, we're just like deleting sections of the Constitution frequently. This administration, regime, what have you, is not just targeting criminals, and that was pretense from the very beginning. They're not even targeting people who are here illegally. They're now targeting any non-US born citizen or any non-white person, particularly if they're brown, even if they're here legally on a work visa or under protected status. Why? Because they don't want anybody in this country who speaks in opposition to the Trump regime. Literally, some of these people have been detained, prevented from coming here, prevented from returning here, sent back to their countries simply because they've expressed negative opinions about Donald Trump. And I ask you this, how is it possible to be a sentient human being in 21st century America, in 2025 America, and not have negative things to say about that person? All of this, of course, is incredibly dangerous because it's not just opinions about Donald that they're targeting. It's people who have opinions about anything this regime does not stand by. And I could ask you the same question about whether or not you're pro-Palestinian. Who, after everything we've seen happen, can look objectively and not be in support of the people whose lives have been destroyed because of the Netanyahu regime and with a big assist from Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, and undoubtedly all of that will be facilitated at even greater rate by the Trump regime. This is all really, really dangerous stuff. All of it. And that's getting worse too. On Air Force One this weekend, Donald was asked about sending American citizens to prisons in El Salvador. That's happened 3 times now. It's going to continue to continue to happen despite judges' orders preventing it. Watch this clip.
El Salvador, the president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas you're going to...
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, if you would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different. If they can house these horrible criminals for a lot less money than it costs us, I'm all for it.
I don't know what the law says. He doesn't care what the law says. Why should he? I have a great idea, though. Let's say that is a thing that could happen. It's not. But that's a thing that will happen if that's what he wants to have happen, because that constitutional crisis people have been so worried about because Donald is not going to follow orders from judges. We're way past that. How about this? How about we send to an El Salvadoran prison, the kind of prison that is notorious for its human rights abuses, that sentences people to hard labor without any hope of getting out, that puts people in with the most hardened of the hardened criminals, gang members who are there for horrific crimes. How about we send them one person, just as a test case, who, let's see, is an adjudicated rapist, who's a business fraud, who has the state of New York over $500 million, who is a convicted felon on 34 criminal counts, who, there's something else he did. Oh, is a traitor to his country, who incited an insurrection, and essentially successfully completed an auto coup. And what's that one thing he did that I know people keep forgetting about it because everybody stopped talking about it, but he did something else that seems worse than all of those other things combined. Yes, he purposefully and maliciously mishandled the COVID pandemic, and as a result, over 450,000 Americans are dead because of that monster. How about we send somebody with that much blood on his hands over to an El Salvadoran prison and see how that goes? Does it make economic sense? Might be worth checking that out. Of course, people aren't taking kindly to Donald's absolute comfort with pushing the boundaries of what's legal. I know, shocking, right? That people are just waking up to this. Recently in Sackets Harbor, New York, 3 children and their mother were detained after ICE searched a dairy farm during a completely unrelated investigation searching for a child predator. This incident has shaken the residents of Sackett Harbor greatly, with many feeling the loss of these children who were simply the victims of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So over 1,000 residents took to the streets, marching in protest all the way over to border czar Tom Homan's home. He happens to live there on the weekends. Watch this.
You're looking at this rally, peaceful, there in Sackets Harbor, and it is the gathering of people who is, the people there are looking for the return of the children and the mother taken away from a farm locally last week. Return the children, deport Homan is what the one sign there says from the woman there in the crowd. Another one, all children deserve freedom. Resist is another one.
While the community marched, the principal of the children's school released a statement about what this loss means and how Donald is ripping families apart, which, if you're human, should bother you. The statement reads, in part, quote, "They lived in a house on the same road as a home ICE had a warrant for. The fact that ICE went door to door is unfathomable. The fact that our students were handcuffed and put into the same van as the alleged criminal from down the street is unconscionable. When I think of my third grader's experience, my stomach twists and it is hard to breathe," unquote. Yes, third grade. That's 8 years old, maybe 9. That is what fascists like Tom Homan and Donald Trump and Elon Musk have planned for us. That is what they don't care about. Even if your parents are here legally, they don't care. Are you brown? Do you believe something that upsets them? Oh, well, doesn't matter, because we live in their America now, and their America is no longer a democracy where we all have the same rights. And if we don't wake up to that quickly, then all of this is going to get normalized, and it's going to be that much harder for us to turn things around. At the end of the day, Donald's actions aren't about politics or the economy or safety. This is all about his utter hatred for other human beings and the joy he gets in ripping families apart and watching them suffer. Protesters across the country are coming together, and they're saying enough is enough. This weekend, there were over 1,000, maybe as many as 1,400 hands-off protests across all 50 states and several countries, with hundreds of thousands of protesters joining in. They were protesting against Donald and Elon Musk with 3 major demands. Quote, an end to the billionaire takeover and rampant corruption of the Trump administration, an end to slashing federal funds for Medicaid, Social Security, and other programs working people rely on, and an end to the attacks on immigrants, trans people, and other communities. Watch this.
The biggest protest in Chicago since President Trump took office. A significant crowd spilling out of Daley Plaza and filling up the streets of Chicago. The anti-Trump hands-off protest, as it's called, was one of hundreds taking place simultaneously nationwide.
I haven't seen a demonstration this big in Chicago ever.
Like oceans of people.
But it looks like this entire square is full.
When a protest gets too big for Daley Plaza, people stand where they can.
In the middle of the street.
This crowd stands against President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk.
We will not be silenced.
Their message is hands off.
Hands off!
Hands off! A protest against the administration's actions to cut government jobs, shutter agencies, deport immigrants, impose tariffs, and more.
I am concerned about people being kidnapped off the streets and shipped to hellhole prisons. I am concerned about our economy tanking. I'm concerned about the fact that we have a president who doesn't care about people.
Things are being defunded. People are losing their jobs. Just really terrible things are happening in this country.
This is one of more than 1,200 demonstrations happening all over the country. There are protests in all 50 states.
These acts of protest were noticed across the country. I believe they have had and will have an impact if we keep it up and they get bigger and more frequent. But Donald, of course, couldn't keep his mouth shut because he does not believe in a United States citizen's First Amendment right to protest peacefully. He issued a statement, or somebody, one of his minions, issued a statement, which is most likely because it's relatively grammatically correct and the capitalizations aren't insane. Quote, oh, look, and it's in the third person. That's not always a tell. Donald's position is clear. He will always protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for eligible beneficiaries. Meanwhile, the Democrat stance is giving Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare benefits to illegal, and I'm not saying that, to people who may or may not be here legally, which will bankrupt these programs and crush American seniors, unquote. Time and time again, Donald Trump, who knows nothing about anything, tries to deflect from his actions and blame Democrats for problems of his own making. But the 600,000 plus protesters across the country know better. The next nationwide protest is scheduled for April 19th from the 50501 group or 5051 group. All right. Well, as I said earlier, this is not all because of one person. Now, obviously, in terms of the tariffs, that is entirely down to Donald. He is doubling and quadrupling down on a one of the most self-destructive economic self-owns. Not one of, it is the most. It is a catastrophe that he single-handedly has inflicted upon us. And again, why? Because he can, because he's got this stupid idea in his head. He can never be wrong. He can't admit that he was wrong. He can't change his mind. Who cares why? That's what he's doing. But here's the thing. He doesn't have the power to. And yet he's doing it anyway. Why? I mean, why is he being allowed to? The Republican Party, yeah, I know, they've abdicated all responsibility. They have ceded their constitutional authority to do all sorts of things, starting with advice and consent. We saw how that went. Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, the most egregious, incompetent, cruel, fascistic cabinet leaders in American history. The Republican Party, Senate Republicans allowed that to happen. They do not have to allow Donald to continue to gut our federal agencies, to implement Schedule F, to get rid of civil servants who just want to do their jobs. They do not have to give him the power to dismantle agencies, preventing them from completing their missions, which were authorized by Congress. And by the way, the dismantling of those agencies is also having massive negative impacts on the economy of Americans, like farmers, for example. Donald Trump does not, as president of the United States, have the unilateral authority to impose tariffs. And right now, Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House can put a stop to this, but they're not doing it. So the question is, how do we get them to? How do we get their Democratic colleagues to open their eyes and start playing hardball? Because there is nothing we can do about Donald Trump. He is so far gone. He is so protected. He is so immune to anything you or I, well, maybe not me, but hey, I'm working on it. Most of us have to say about who we think he is or how bad we think. In fact, the more we complain and the worse it gets for us, the more he likes it. So we're not the people to make the argument. And in fact, I would argue that there doesn't have to be an argument made. The Republicans just have to take back their power, for God's sakes, and stop playing this game that for reasons we don't yet know, but hopefully will someday, they are letting unfold at their own peril. If that's not going to work in the short term, well, guess what? Every single one of these people, including the 10 traitorous Democrats who helped facilitate all of this, needs to be primaried And we need to start working on that right away. Is that enough for one day? Remember, it's Monday, and Saturday and Sunday are weekdays now. So, it's a lot, but we have an emotional support moment. Yeah. And it's eaglets. Baby birds are not the cutest creatures on the planet, but baby eaglets, especially these two, their names are Sunny and Gizmo. And they survive. They're the surviving eaglets of California bald eagles, Jackie and Shadow. Shadow, great. Jackie's a great name, but for an eagle, when one of them's named Shadow, I don't know. Anyway, the little guys are thriving after a March storm sadly took their sibling, but things are looking up now. So we're going to take a look at Friends of Big Bear California Eagles Nest Cam, which is a thing. Love it. Baby eaglets and Mozart. My God. It does not get any better than that. They're adorable. I hope that helped you. It helped me. And yeah, the Mozart just kind of put it over the top. Okay. Questions and comments. Ginger Rogers. High heels and backwards. Love it. First of all, thank you very much for that. Question: do you think Donald will try martial law on April 20th? Wait, what? April 20th. Is something happening on April 20th that I'm not aware of? Sorry. Something funny just happened. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out what the excuse is that he's going to. Oh God. Yeah. Thankfully, I don't have that etched in my brain. Well, I probably do now. Okay, April 20th. This is Hitler's birthday. I know. But I think he'll use a protest that maybe gets out of hand because the National Guard gets called or local police officers engage and provoke or what have you. I mean, I'm not saying he won't. I think martial law is definitely something he's considering at some point. I just don't think it's going to be on Hitler's birthday. I'm sure he'll celebrate that in other ways. Actually, he doesn't celebrate other people's birthdays, so. And it's too close to his, and he's probably one of those people who has like a birth week celebration. Michael, thank you so much for that. Comment: Jamie Raskin protest speech was inspiring. Yeah, everything about Jamie is inspiring. I love him. I think he's amazing. And the more we hear of him, the better. Hey, Betty Veronica, good to see you. Thank you for that, as always. Instead of idiots, I call them Erics. That's not a gray rock. There's not a gray rock huge enough to stop the orange malignant narcissist. We need nerds underground, good trouble. Stop the reverse Robin Hood. Yeah, I'm all for that. I like being subversive personally. Well, I mean, calling them Erics, that's good, but I've been asked this question before. I know you're not asking me now, but for what it's worth, people have often asked me, who's the stupidest of his children? And when I only talk about the 3 oldest ones because they're the only ones. I mean, I can't say I kind of grew up. They're much younger than I am, but we overlapped. Um, Everybody thinks Eric is the stupidest. I promise you, it's Donnie. It's really saying something. Hey, Dumpster Diving Dragon, thank you for that as always. Oh, late fee. Again, guys, not necessary, but much appreciated. Not a tariff. We at Mary Trump Media will never, ever impose tariffs on our exports. Or no, wrong. On your imports. I don't know how that would work, but you don't even have to worry about it because they're not a thing that will ever happen. Love always, yay. Thanks, Dumpster Diving Dragon. Robin, comment, but Mary, Donald is going to stand on the steps of the Capitol and open his wallet and start throwing his money to the masses. Yeah, laugh my fucking ass off. Yes, it will be a cold day in hell. Donald does not give money away, which is funny because actually he gave me $100 once because I was in college and I had I was driving. I went to Tufts and a friend of mine and I drove into the city and I parked like an idiot and my car got towed. And it was not far from his office. So we went up to his office and I said, hey, my car got towed. And he gave me money to go get my car out of impound, which was very nice of him. But also, he was a quite different person back. I mean, it was still awful, but he was capable of that kind of gesture back then. He's not anymore, which is funny because the only sage advice my grandmother ever gave me was, and I'm not kidding, write this down. You'll want to tell your children and grandchildren because it's very moving. She said, Mary, which is weird because her name was also Mary. I'm pretty sure she was talking to me though. Mary, never reject a gift of money. In my family, that was easy because there weren't many of them. I don't know. Feeling a little delirious, to be honest. Champagne Head, Canadian in the house. Thank you so much for the gift. And also thank you for being Canadian and standing strong. Question, do you figure the grounds people at his golf courses are ardent supporters or do they just need the gig? Totally just need the gig. I'm asking how much it would cost to get some messages mown into the green. I'm guessing it wouldn't cost that much. I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind that anybody who works there has to, right? They work, it's a job, they get paid. I'm sure they don't get paid that well. I would be shocked if there were benefits, but it's a job and there are hardworking people in the world. I'm guessing, I'm speculating, I'm guessing they're not treated very well. So I think we could get something going. Let's make that a poll next time. What message would you like mown into the lawn of one of Donald's golf courses? And actually, let's do it on the greens. Because golfers are particular about that kind of thing. His Divine Scadu, thank you as always for that. Question, in regard to my net worth, can you recommend a burlap sack that complements an athletic figure? You know what? Great marketing idea. No, not marketing. Somebody should start a company that specializes in various sized burlap sacks for those of us who don't want to keep our money in financial institutions anymore. I cannot, but I'll work on it. You guys are on a tear. California Cat Whisperer, thank you very much for that. Comment, Mary, really love and appreciate your podcast. You help us connect the dots. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you so much. That's sort of I feel like that's one of our goals here because it does feel so incredibly chaotic and crazy. It's like it feels like it is a multi-front war. We're being bombarded from all sides, but it's really important to understand that this is all of a piece. And if you can connect the dots, I think it could help us feel a little less destabilized, because that's how they want us to feel. Destabilized. Sue, New Zealand, thank you so much. Another late fee. You guys, seriously. Very kind of you. Mariana, as always, thank you so much. Our super sticker for that. It's great. Laura, thank you, Laura. Cat fee. Thanks, cats. That's very nice. My cats would never do that. Of course, they didn't hear my grandmother's sage advice. Okay. Yeah, I actually think that when we finally get our merch up and running, which I promise you is going to happen, maybe we should have a line of burlap sacks. Why not? I'm going to need one. Jill, thank you very much, Jill, for that. Comment. I'm assuming this is Donald. Donald has ruined the trust of all the world now. I'm sad to say I won't see when the world trusts America again. I do pray it won't be generations. Listen, I have to be honest with you. He hasn't. It's the tens of millions of people who put him into office twice who ruined all of this for us. That anybody would be so bereft of common sense or basic human decency to think that this was something that should have happened again. They ruined it. The Republican Party ruined it. The corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court ruined it. Donald was just doing what he does. So, I'm not willing to let him off the hook for pretty much anything. But this is down to the people who voted for him. It was down to the people in the Republican Party who covered for him and the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court that let him get away with all of his fucking crimes, and the corrupt and or incompetent corporate media that normalized him year after year after year. Inexcusable. They ruined it. Robert, wow, Robert, thank you so very much. That's extremely generous of you, and we appreciate it. Comment. Mary, use your connections and get Wharton School of Business to tell the truth about his business degree. He clearly failed so many of the classes. Tariffs 101, Don the Con. You're assuming I have connections that I do not think I have. Listen, do we need to know? Like, we know that he got in because my aunt, he got into Penn. He didn't get into college right out of high school. He went to Fordham, which is a fine school, but it wasn't fancy enough for him. My aunt did his homework. My Aunt Marianne, who was about 9 or 10 years older, did his homework for him. He paid somebody to take his SATs for him because he wanted to get into Penn. He didn't go to Wharton. He went to the University of Pennsylvania. My dad, one of my dad's fraternity brothers, worked in the admissions department of the University of Pennsylvania. And my dad asked him a favor to help Donald get in. It should not surprise us if we got his transcript and he got a bunch of D minuses. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun. I'm also saying I don't have connections like that. But if I did, sure. Because it would humiliate him. And that's something that we all enjoy. Loves my dogs like, thank you as always. That's awesome. Comment. Yes, to everything you have said. Wow. Can I quote you? I think nobody ever says that to me. Thank you. I will not go to my head. Betty Veronica again. Question. Remember when a bald eagle attacked Donald? Very symbolic. Yes, I do. He was in his office at Trump Tower behind that stupid desk of his. And I assume it was for an ad or something. And yeah, there was a bald eagle brought in. First of all, what are you doing bringing a bald eagle anywhere near him? And secondly, why isn't that bald eagle free? That aside, yeah, he reached like nearby and the eagle went right for him. It's kind of fun. Animals always know. Albany Mountain Life, thank you very much for that. Comment, hearing whispers of another protest on 419. Keep your eyes and ears open. Yeah, we're going to keep you guys apprised every time we hear about protests because that is something that we really need to keep up. And it was very heartening to see so many people in so many places show. And again, it wasn't just the big cities. There were little towns in red states. Dozens of people, hundreds of people showing up. That counts a lot too. Cheryl, Canadian in the house, thank you so much for that. Comment, not a tariff. Keep mocking them, Mary. I will. And thank you. Yes, no tariffs here. But yeah, listen, let's all keep mocking them because they deserve it and they hate it, especially him. Darth, thank you so much, Darth, for that question. Why are strategists saying to Dems to play possum? I do not know. It's infuriating. Yeah, Dems, just play dead like you're not paying attention, like you're not going to do anything. And then what? Not do anything. I mean, I guess the rationale is they're doing so much to make it all implode. So just, let it happen. No, because what's happening is hurting people. People are going to get killed. People are going to lose their livelihoods. People are going to lose their life savings. People are going to lose their career. Like what? And then what? No, Democrats need to be fighting this every step of the way. They need to be winning, or at least trying to win the messaging war. And they need to be formulating plans. And you know what would be really nice, Democrats? Find a leader. Wouldn't that be nice? Find a leader. Arr. It's just incredible to me. Jenny, thank you so much for that question. Mary, thank you. You're welcome. Seriously, sincerely. Question, have you read any of Sarah Kenzier's books? She predicted all of this. I have not, but yes, I've heard that she was quite prescient. So probably worth checking her books out. All right, I've got some super stickers et al, I think. Cindy, super sticker, thank you as always, Cindy. Carmen, thank you very much for that. Susan, thank you as well. Lauren Sue, thank you very much. Mary, another super sticker, thank you very much. Anshael, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Another super sticker, thank you. That's awesome. Dusk Tracy, another super sticker, thank you. It's very generous of you. Julian, another super sticker, thank you very, very much. Sunny, thank you for that. That's great. BN, another super sticker. Thank you as well. I've got some more super stickers. And Margulies, thank you very much. KM, another Canadian in the house. Thank you so much, Canadian, for that. You guys seriously rock. We are with you every step of the way. And that does it for us tonight. So everybody who is watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. Everybody who is finding us at the Rubble on Twitter, anybody over my Substack watching the live stream, thanks guys, it's great to have you here. Everybody here, please go to my Substack, it's called The Good in Us, check that out. Everybody listening to the podcast, that's very helpful and we appreciate that as well. To our super stickers, everybody giving us gifts, you guys keep us going, we so appreciate it. It really, really, really matters. We're trying very hard to grow and make this better for you. So we couldn't do it without you. And of course, to our excellent moderators who do a phenomenal job. And it is not an easy one for those of you who think it might be to keep this place safe. So thanks for that. And of course, to my quite extraordinary team, which is growing and just doing this extraordinary work. Seriously, Mondays, it's like the floodgates open. So for them to be able to stay on top of this, make sense of it, make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. It is not easy. So thanks, guys. Always appreciate it. All right. I think it's Monday. I think. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. The Nerd Avengers and I will be back. Of course, Mary Trump Live every weeknight, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern as well. We've got videos dropping every day. Please check those out. like them, share them. That helps us tremendously with the videos that drop in between the lives. Also, if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel because we're very, very much trying to grow. It helps us do that. It helps with the algorithm. It helps with a whole bunch of stuff. And we are trying to get to 400,000 subscribers as quickly as we can. And okay, that's it. I will see you tomorrow live with the Nerd Adventures. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.